I'm just trying to quickly jump back in here because I just remembered I have this. While I was looking for stuff, I found it, and it's pretty much just a bunch of, I think, quarter squares, I can't remember exactly, but a bunch of Halloween fabric. And it's all kind of purpley, and this one I think works really well because it's got like moons and bats and stuff. If the main background was black, I'd use this one, but because it's white, I'm not sure about it. I think I'd rather use it for something else. But what I did find was a bunch of this fabric, because I found some of the dress lining. I have a little bit more, but it's all like one big strip, and I'm just not sure that's gonna work. But I did find this, and I think this should be enough for me to be able to take this and use this instead. So I'm gonna iron it out, and I think I'm gonna use this one instead. I think it's some old trouser material, like slacks, kind of, I don't know, stuff I used to wear to my job. So I feel like it might be a bit of that. But I think this could be a good material where it does kind of sit enough and it's not too slippy, whereas the other one is quite slippery. And it's also like a big flat panel, so I think it should be enough. I'm gonna nip down, yeah, actually that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to go down and iron this out so it's fully flat. I'm then going to pin the other material to it, because I think I should have enough. I'm going to pin the other material to it, pin the templates to that, cut them all out, and then once it's all cut out, sew it all together, then flip it inside out, and hopefully that should be enough. Actually, one thing I might do is I might cut it all out, take it apart, and then sew the black stuff together, sew the purple stuff together, and then once that's all sewn together, put it on top of each other, sew it round, flip it inside out, and we'll see what we have there, because I think it's going to be the best way of doing it, so yeah. I do need to find that dress lining though, because I swear I bought a big panel of it, along with a panel of white as well, so see if I can find it, and maybe I'll swap it out for this one, who knows. But anyway, see you later. Okay, just a little update. Unfortunately, I'm kind of gonna have to sew it like this. Mostly because of the way I cut out the pieces and all the rest of it. Although I'm not too mad because I have fully cut out this and I've also stitched the main line together. And with that open, it's just like one line down the center, and I will wash this. It's covered in chalk. I'll probably give it a quick wash, either before I do the final sewing of this onto it or whatever. If I had more of this material, I'd probably just double up this, but I don't have more material, and I've got other plans for other things as well that might be a similar material to this, so if I can find the polyester lining, I might use that with this one and just discard this. But tonight my plan is to sew this all together, hopefully. It's gonna take a bit, but yeah, it's gonna have to look like this. My plan was to paint it black anyway, so I'm not too mad, but it is kind of one of those things where I'm a bit like, that's something I definitely need to pay attention to in the future, because I realized it as soon as I cut out these two, and then was like, oh wait a minute. And then because I was so limited with my fabric, I couldn't change around the rest of these to make it so that they were all on the outside, so it is what it is. There might be a little bit of rain sounds because it has been bucketing it down every so often, so just bear in mind for that. Okay, so I think I've sorted out the color thing. So I use, basically for the other side of the material, I just used an old t-shirt because I was like, I want a full sheet, or at least half and half, like this side is, which is the old t-shirt, or the old trouser fabric, and I just decided to use that because I couldn't find the dress lining. I actually remembered where I think I put some of the dress lining, but I don't know where it is, if that is true, so I'll need to check that, but whatever, I've done it now. So I've also pinned on this, which is just half of the ribbon. I think it looks really nice. And also at the back of this, like, it's not quite sitting right because I haven't actually pinned it fully, but for the back, as you can see, I ended up ripping the seam at that final point bit and trying to sew it into more of a point. It looks alright from far away, but when you look at it up close, it's really not the best at all. Like, I would do it for all of them because they're all kind of a bit rounded right now, but I think it would just be best if I just leave them rounded, because doing that, just like, I'll put it up here, but like, you can kind of see like it's not the best at all. It doesn't really look that great up close, so I was like, right, I'll just leave it. I also need to hem this so it stops rolling up so much, because it'll probably sit about here or so once I actually hem it. But other things I've done, so I have this, which is a little brooch I got from like, I pink flying tiger. And I was thinking maybe I could put it here, but it's a bit big. It's a bit big. Maybe if I found a way to take it apart, cut this little spiderweb thing in half and then put it there, and then put like a moon thing, or I'm thinking maybe just a bow, like a small bow would work. Kind of like this but not pink, like something there I think would work well. And I'm also thinking possibly I pleased it a bit of this, or whatever you want to call it, ruffled it I suppose. And basically, God, it's hard to tell from like, because it keeps on wrapping around and falling off a bit so much. Like that. Okay, it kind of looked like this if I were to do it, like, which I think works really well, having that like boulder line towards the bottom of it I think would look really nicely. I'm also thinking if I have that on the sleeves, it might be an idea to put it around the bottom as well, just to help hold it as well. Something like that I think could work quite nicely, but it's just going to take a bit of time to get a full amount that I need for it. So yeah, I'm thinking the plan is going to be get a ton more of this, sew this on and sew the other side on as well because I don't have it on just yet. Then get this sewn on, and then we can figure out what patterns we want to do for both this and this. I'm also thinking with this I could get this sewn on properly as well and figure out kind of what I want to do with the middle. So if I had more of this, maybe I'd put like that in the middle or something to kind of help separate it. I might even like put that in there to kind of help separate it as well, or just in general like have this going over the top of it. I don't think over the top, maybe just in this little bit here, but maybe I'll put something else there with the bow or whatever. But yeah, I think that's the plan for this one, so get in there with it. I also put like a little moon here and a moon at the back, but again with the chalk I can easily wipe it off, put it on again. So I'll try out a few things, and once I get my decided pattern I will show that as well. So still a bit to do, but we're getting there. Yeah, that works. Okay, right, so trying to remember what I was saying last time. Okay, so I think I have an idea for a design on this. I'm thinking I'm just going to do moons and stars, and just do like 2 moons here, a moon on the back, and just do kind of different star patterns all over this. I think it's just going to be the plan. I was debating on possibly taking some of this, which is just a white version of that, and like putting it up onto here or something, but I think might be a bit much. I think it's something I might try right at the end before I sew it and see if I want it, but yeah, I don't think so. So I got these pinned and the bottom of the actual lace bit sewn, so I need to go up and just with some thread and just kind of like up and down get some of the top bit sealed on while sewn onto it properly so it'll stay there a bit better. But I pinned ribbon on this side underneath and on this side on top. So on top, I don't know, I think I prefer the one underneath. However, the only issue is the fact that it's like I can feel the ruffle on the inside of this. So I'm thinking I might take just a bit of this or the purple one and just do like a plain ribbon on the inside just to help flatten down, you know, the other side of this, because it's not like itchy, it's just kind of like I can feel it. It's a little annoying, so I think the plan is going to be I'll do that, because the outside bit is not bad at all. Like when I'm moving it, it really doesn't feel that bad, but like on the inside of this one it's a little, and it's because this other side of it's sticking up into my arm a bit. But I have also done a full length that will go around the bottom of here, and I'm thinking of just putting it over the top like that and not having it half under like the other one, because there's A, more space here, and B, there's not this lace, which I quite like having a little space in between to kind of help show the bottom of that lace as well, because it looks quite nice. So I'm also thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the forest idea. So I've kind of put some chalk on it now, so hopefully you can kind of see what I'm thinking of doing, like kind of black trees kind of coming up the sides, and then this part here will be fully black, and then around the back I might do, again, still the tree pattern, but just a lot sharper of an end, and then the crisscrossing kind of corset detail, which is probably going to be towards the end, because I'm just kind of doing stuff that's not really going to matter if I get paint on it or whatever, and it's more of the base. So that's why I haven't done this bit yet. and I still want to kind of show this with everything just because it gives me a better idea of like how it's sitting on the shoulder and how far I have from here to here and all the rest of it. So I'm also possibly thinking of putting like a ribbon like across here or something, but I don't know. It's again a lot of like, I'm thinking of possibly doing this, I'm thinking of possibly doing that. Still got a lot to decide. I also bought some fishnets just from Tesco, and I was curious and I quickly tried on, and these actually fit me, which I was surprised by. So fishnet material for some reason is super stretchy compared to a lot of other materials. Maybe it's because there's a lot of spaces in between and all the rest of it, but my plan is to do something that like you probably know, like where you basically like cut holes in the ends and then cut a hole in the crotch area and then you wear it like a t-shirt. So my plan is, I think I still have some black elastic, but it's one of those things where I'm not entirely sure exactly where it is. So maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe I can just quickly buy some, but I'm pretty sure I got some extra because I was like, oh, I have a lot of white, let's buy some of this black, so make sure I got black. But I don't know, man, some stuff has just gone missing on this rim, and I'm gonna have another massive tidy up because I'm not utilizing the space as much, and I'm gonna grab some stuff up from Dundee for a while I'm here as well, so that's gonna mean more. But my plan is to hopefully put like a bit of elastic around here so it can kind of sit here, and then hopefully have an area where my thumb could come through, and then hopefully getting at least some fabric up here to hopefully stop it from fraying too much and kind of have an area up there, I suppose. Yeah, to stop it from like fraying or breaking or ripping and all the rest of it. So this is also something I'm going to do in this video because it shouldn't take too long to do, really. Yeah, and this was the t-shirt that I used for this as well that I found. And I'm also thinking I could possibly use the kind of cuffs of this as well, maybe, or the neckline. It is a V, so I'm not sure whether it would work the best, but maybe I could just chop it off and then use it for the thingy, particularly for the neckline bit. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything for now. Once I get that done, I think I'll probably just show a lot of stuff, probably from just like me doing it kind of thing, because I think at this point I'm just gonna have to stand in front of the camera for no massive real reason. There's not too much changes going on, but yeah. So I need to make a list of everything I want to do so I can get it all sorted and everything. But yeah, I'm also thinking of possibly using pearlescent paint because I do have pearlescent paint. I think I have fabric medium, but I'm not sure. But if I use like white or make like a lilac and then use a bit, or even purple, and use a bit of pearlescent paint. Okay, that was a sparrowhawk. I'm pretty sure. I didn't know he's down there. And do it for like the stars and then possibly the little pattern in here. Like, I'll figure it out as I go, but I'm definitely just chipping away at stuff with this one. But yeah, I'll see you in the next bit. Okay, and just a little update. I have kind of finished the front bit. I think for the sides I'm just gonna bring it up to like kind of vaguely where the armpit is, maybe, because I mean if I would just continue this up, it would be a bit too high. So I think I'd probably just like bring it down a little bit and then have this area fully blocked off. I might actually I might extend this out. Actually, I'm gonna wear it, I'm gonna check it, and I might extend the area that's gonna have basically just a black line out a bit more, depending on where this is facing. Do the same on the other side, and then, yeah, because basically what I've been doing is just I did like a flat kind of wash across the bottom, then kind of started adding the trees, and then with dry brush even adding kind of like scaffolding, I can't remember the name, sgraffito something, just all like the edges to kind of help like make it look like trees, because particularly when it's further away it does look like that. And then I've just been using a hairdryer just to dry them off, because I think with this kind of paint, cause it's like silk paint or whatever, you have to like use an iron, like you have like a piece of cloth and then iron over it, so I think like heat helps to kind of seal it in. So yeah, that's basically what I've been doing, but I think the front is pretty much done now. That's a bit better, okay. Alright, okay, so we're done, finally. Oh, this took so long to do. I mean, no, fair enough, there's a lot of stuff going on with the whole thing, but at the same time, it took way longer than I thought it would. I'm really happy with how it turned out, but just the amount of time and the amount of time this took. So, trying to remember exactly what I filmed last. I think it was literally me doing these trees. So after I did the trees and I painted on the pattern to try and match this one. It was really hard to do like a really thin thing, but I think I got like a fairly good idea of it. I only really managed on one of each side to get the stars and the moon bit if I planned it out properly. Or I was going to use a stencil. I have some like see-through plastic that I could have probably, if I had the time, cut all of it out and like been able to get like the exact patterning of this onto it, but just would have taken so much time. But I kind of like it because it does kind of like show up, so you can see even from far away, you can kind of tell there's a pattern there because it's mostly going to be under my arms. So you know, there's that. I think, trying to remember exactly what I did, I added on the bit of frill at the bottom, which I think I quite like. It kind of gives it a little bit more shape. As you can kind of see, it kind of goes out a bit more a little bit, which I quite like. Then I sewed down the top of these, which I think has really helped to kind of just hold it down in place. It's only like a little stitch that goes through some of the lacing up here, but just kind of follows this. It doesn't actually pin down any of these top bits, but they lie flat enough when the rest of it's kind of quite pinned down, and these are pinned down quite well as well, so did that on both of them. I think I made the right decision to have a little bit of space between this because I quite like the bottom of this, and I think it just helps kind of almost emulate the trees as well. Kind of emulates it a little bit. From further away it does. It doesn't really run like close up. I would say with the trees there's a little bit of, this comes up a lot higher than this does, but because of the way the fabric folds, it doesn't quite work. Because it's like if you were to hold it straight up, it does kind of go up and down a little bit, and this kind of goes quite evenly. So I think, to be honest, I'd rather have this side on this side, but I don't really mind it. Trees aren't really uniform, but you know, if this moon was slightly smaller and slightly more in the center, it would be a bit better, but whatever. The moon isn't stretching as much though, because the moon used to stretch like that much over it. Like it used to stretch a lot, and I feel like it's stretching a lot less. It still stretches a little bit, but not a ton. So yeah, I didn't quite get like a full-on black for this. Like even though I was using black, I was watering it down a bit because I didn't really have a ton, and also the silk paint had kind of dried out a bit, so it meant I had to water it down in the first place. So I mostly got the trees in kind of a little bit more black, and then kind of like washed out the bottom a little bit more by adding a little bit of paint to it, so that kind of spread a lot more, because I was finding the spreading was getting a little annoying, particularly up here. It kind of spreads a lot, so I found that I would do kind of this and then kind of dry, you know, kind of spread out quite a lot, and then I would have to dry brush around it, which I think still worked fairly well. Like that dry brushing does give that effect of kind of those trees, and you can't really tell exactly where all of the finer points are from a distance, but you can kind of tell there's kind of like a fuzzing around it almost. So I think it worked well enough. It definitely does look like trees. If I were to do it again, I'd maybe start this lower and then come up a bit more like this, but it is what it is. So for the back color thing, I think it looks quite good. There was a little issue up here. Oh, up here actually. There wasn't a ton of, there was like, this was coming around a lot tighter, like just above that moon. It was coming around like this and it wasn't looking right. So I did have to go in and add a bit more fabric and kind of sew that to it. Sew that to it, and kind of see here. And I think it worked out well enough. I think it still gives it that illusion that it's the same. So I don't know, I think it worked out fairly well. I enjoy that the shoulders do kind of line up with a point, which I quite like. It's not sewn down or anything. I've debated on sewing it down, but I think it's fine when it's not sewn down. But yeah, I think the back looks really good as well. Trying to show you while also thinking what's around it, or like there. I quite liked having the moon as kind of this pearlescent kind of white. I did end up having to put a layer of pearlescent down, but it just looked kind of silver. Like it was very much like these. It was this kind of silver color, and I was like, I don't really like that. So I tried mixing a bit with paint, white paint, but that just completely took away the pearlescent of it. So what I did was it was basically just white, and then I put some pearlescent over the top of it. And I think that's the way to do it, is prime it with white if you want to have white pearlescent, because it goes kind of silvery if you don't, I find. So yeah, I have a bigger moon on the back. I decided that the way I was going to do with this was, I basically put it in the bathtub, mixed up some pearlescent and some purple and then used a toothbrush to kind of flick on all these different little speckles. I found that didn't really work the first time, so I washed it off and dried it in the sun because it's very sunny, and then kind of redid it again. I think it did a lot better job of kind of keeping, there was less kind of splodges on it and stuff like that as well. That's why this kind of looks kind of odd, because the dots on it are like paintbrush made, so they're slightly bigger, but from a distance it's not too bad. I'll maybe take away one of the stars or something, because there's 3 kind of stars in that corner right now, but is what it is. So for the back, for the kind of corseting detail that is on the back, what I did was I took 2 strips of the leftover slacks, like trouser fabric. I basically cut 2 strips. One of them I had to like cut 2 strips and then attach them together that were about 3 centimeters long. I then sewed in each side, kind of hemmed it in, I think about half a centimeter each side, so it was about 2 centimeters. And then I sewed the outside onto the fabric of the t-shirt, and also sewed the bottom of them so they kind of fit under this hemming, this kind of ruffle bit a little bit, which is slightly hard because one of the ruffle sewing for the ruffle bits came a bit high, but I still got it to work. So then I had 2 strips. I was originally going to work with it being this wide, and then I was like, that doesn't really look that good when I put it on, because it would have just like taken up so much of the back. And then I decided what I was going to do was I'm trying to show you and do it at the same time, but it's not really working. I decided I would just take it in a bit more, and then I decided to take it in a little bit more, so it kind of comes to this more, you know, more in at the back, but I think it looks nicer that way. So then I had a debate on what colour to use, because this is actually white lace, but I decided to do a similar thing that I did with this and kind of like sprinkle stuff onto it, but then it was too wet and it was creating these big splodges, so I was like, fuck it, go all in. And then I went in with a slightly darker one and did the same, dried them out, and then what I did was I cut them, like I basically cut them so they fit kind of flat underneath the, I'm gonna start that again because that's just confusing. But basically what I did was I took 2 strips and I would cross them over, and those would go underneath, because the whole point is it's supposed to look like lacing. So you kind of have one that goes underneath, one that goes underneath, the next one will go on top, underneath, on top, that kind of thing. So basically what I did was I lift up the fabric, because I only sewed on the outside, I lift up the slack fabric, tuck them underneath. I'd already lined out where I wanted it to go. I think you can still kind of see the chalk because I forgot to wash it off. But then I sewed all the underneath on, just hand sewed it, and then I kind of lined out the top, burned the ends to make sure they wouldn't fray, and so it would help kind of create that some on top, some on bottom kind of look that you get with it just now. Alright, so I really like how it turned out. I also, one thing I did as well was I added some just purple paint onto the ends of where they go underneath the fabric to kind of give it some fake shading to make it look a little bit more like it was actually underneath everything, and also just to help separate it from the top, because when I was starting to lay out the top I was like, this isn't really working, so I did purple and some wash kind of down it to kind of help give it a bit more of a gradient as well, which I think definitely did work, although I think I maybe should have gone darker with it a little bit just so it kind of stood out a lot more. I think I also probably could have just started off with lilac, but I was originally planning on just having it speckled and then putting some moons on it, but I'm not sure if I want to do that. I could put some moons on it. I do have the moon stamp which I could use, but I don't know. I think this is it done for now though. I don't want to do too much else with it. I think it works perfectly well. I really, really like it. I do think that I could have definitely made changes and made it look a lot better, but it is what it is. I'm sorry I didn't really film anymore. I'm doing it along with the, I should say that him now because I took it off, the kind of sheep, Susie the Shepherd orange pink jumper, which either the video will be up after this one, or one of the ones after this one, or has already been up, which will pop in the iCard if it has. So I hope you enjoyed. This one was definitely an undertaking. If the fabric was able to go through my sewing machine, it probably would have been a bit quicker. I found that this was definitely quicker because of that. This would have taken so much longer if I hadn't. I did just hand sew it to the top, and it fits really nicely that way, so yeah. But I really would like to look at doing summer collars like this. I also like in the shepherd one, I forgot to put like a little bow here, but I don't know if it really needs it, and I can always just add it afterwards. I don't think it's anything too big changing that I'm like, oh, I need to now refilm this. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I definitely enjoyed the result. I think it looked really nice. If you, I don't know. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, whatever you want to do, subscribe as well, whatever you want to do really. But yeah, this is definitely something that's like different, also not too different in reality. It's not something I have right now, which I think is something why the reason I really wanted to kind of make it, and I think it really just gives that kind of like Halloween gothic vibe without it being necessarily too like goth necessarily. But yeah, anyway. I'll see you guys later. Bye. I think I said that. I think I said that. Okay.